Hi, everyone who's joining in. We will start in a few minutes.
Can you hear me, Seema?
A big welcome to everybody who has joined in. So the digital SAT is all set to be conducted on March 11th, and we have more dates coming up in May and June. Also, the time is ripe to kickstart your decision making with respect to your undergraduate applications for 2024, which involves a plethora of preparation aspects, especially if you're looking at the top schools. And to give you the much needed advice in order for you to score your highest in digital SAT and start your admissions journey, we have our top experts, Sean Basu and Seema Upadhyay. To talk about Sean, he is a Princeton Review certified digital SAT, GRE, and GMAT trainer with over 20 years of teaching experience. He has the distinction of teaching more than thousands of students in and outside of India and has helped them easily decode the test and aid them in getting their highest scores. A big welcome to you, Sean.
Thank you so much, Seema. Good evening, everyone.
So talking about Seema Upadhyay, she is a premium admission service manager with over 2 decades of experience counseling students and facilitating their journeys in some of the top universities across the world, especially in US and UK. She has a brilliant track record of helping students into their dream universities and is one of our most sought after experts. You could not be in better hands. A big welcome to you, Seema.
Thank you so much, Seema. Hello, everyone. Good evening.
So again, a big welcome to everybody who has joined in, and I'll let you take over, Sean.
All right. Thank you, Seema. So, warm welcome to all of you. Thank you for taking your time for this session. It's about something really exciting, the digital SAT and all the changes that have happened over the last few months. Exciting changes, a very different landscape to the SAT, the way it is going to be conducted now. And I'm going to quickly take you through what changes have happened and maybe show you a few questions as to what kind of things students should expect. So, obviously, we all know that the SAT is an entrance examination that is taken by, that is administered by the College Board, right? And it's a, it's now become digital in the sense that the whole format of the exam has changed. Earlier in India, it used to be a paper pencil test. Yes, now the test will be a computer-based test. And a lot more changes that have happened is what we are going to discuss. So the exam has been happening for a very long time. We all know that. Long ago, SAT was called the Scholastic Aptitude Test, and then later it became known as the Scholastic Assessment Test. But right now, the SAT is an empty acronym. It does not have any full form, right? The SAT is a mandatory exam mainly for the United States of America. It is accepted also in various other countries. India, of course, is one of them. And in other countries, even if it may not be always considered mandatory, but if you have a good SAT score, you always have the edge in whichever country you wish to apply, right? So these are the upcoming test dates. One big change that has happened is earlier during the paper pencil exam, we had 4 or 5 test days available. Now we have 7 test days available all through the calendar. As you can see here, March, May, June, August, October, November, and December. That gives the students a lot more options, to plan it better and write accordingly based on their other details of the academic curriculum. The next 3 SATs coming up around March 11th, obviously the one that is coming up next. Then on May 6th and on June 3rd. So it gives you a lot of time to plan and register for the tests beforehand and ensure that you have everything in place before you go for the exam. The registration fee, you have a $60 registration fee plus a $43 regional fee. There is a test center fee involved as well. And all these details obviously are available on College Board. Now, it is extremely important that you plan it well before you select your test date and center. Because if you have to change it or cancel your registration, there are charges involved. So it is very, very important that this is planned well, discussed with the teachers, and accordingly the date is selected and the test center is selected. And once selected, let's try and plan around it instead of changing things. Otherwise, it could lead to unnecessary extra charges being incurred, right? On the test date, some very important things that need to be done. Let me tell you one very important aspect to all the members of the audience present here. Guys, please understand that now the SAT will be taken still at the test centers with a manual proctor. Okay, I will show you that a little later. But that you are now allowed to carry your own device for taking the SAT. As in, you can carry your own laptop or tablet to the test center for taking the SAT. The specifications are all given on the College Board website. Now, Blue Book is one app of the College Board which has to be downloaded on your device through which you can take the actual exam. I will show you how the Blue Book interface looks like. Your admission ticket that you have registered for, of course. An acceptable photo ID, which ideally should be your passport, or Aadhaar card is also accepted nowadays. You should carry your power cord or portable charger. Okay. Although College Board is trying to ensure that every test, table has associated, charging point available, but then it's best not to take any risk and take a device which already is fully charged or use a portable charger, right? Take a paper and pencil with you, pen or pencil with you for scratch work. The proctor will provide you the paper for doing your rough work. Okay. You can carry your own calculator. Acceptable calculator configurations are available on the College Board website. However, there is an inbuilt calculator as well, on the Bluebook app, which you can use. It's called a graphing calculator. You can use that. If you are comfortable using an external mouse, please take that. And if you're comfortable using external keyboard, please take it. In case it's always safe, to with the pandemic having just ended, it's important that you carry your mask with you, because you don't want to risk anything right now, isn't it? So these are some things that you should carry with you. Just to quickly show you the Bluebook app, this is how the Bluebook app will look like. The questions will be on the left-hand side, and the answer choices on the right-hand side. You have the navigate button here, where you can click on the navigation button and proceed through the exam. The directions are all given here, okay? And you have various other tools which are there on top, which you will get used to. The timer will be constantly reminding you of how much time is left. An annotate tool is mentioned here, and some other options will also be available. I'll just quickly brief you about those options as well that are there. But this is how the Bluebook app will look like. Okay, this has to be downloaded and installed on your device. This will be helpful even when you are practicing the mock tests that are available on College Board, right? So a little more details about the SAT going digital and not just online. The test is still taken at the test center. You can't take it from home. You can take the test either at the test center or in a school which is an accepted test center. The test is still going to be proctored in person. So there'll be a manual proctor at the test center. All right. How will the test be taken? Through the Bluebook application. Like I told you, it has to be downloaded and installed before the test. You can carry your laptop or tablet. In case you are not carrying one at the test center, a device will be given to you. But we human beings are all creatures of habit, isn't it? So once you are used to using your own laptop or your tablet while for taking the exam, practicing the exams, it's better you use that, because that will be very helpful for you, right? You would know where everything is. It's just that comfort level that it will give you. Now, one very important aspect, and this is really a great development, the digital SAT is designed to overcome internet outages. So in case you lose your connectivity during the test, your work will be automatically saved, and you can start again without any interruption from the same point where you left off. So you don't lose any testing time at all, and you don't have to go back and answer all the questions again. So that's another major change, all right? That's a big advantage, right? So you don't have to worry about it. What are the big changes that have happened? Is a much shorter testing experience. Yes, the earlier SAT, the paper pencil SAT, in case we have anybody here who has taken the earlier SAT or has gone through the papers earlier, this is a 2-hour, 14 minutes exam, unlike the 3+ hours which was there earlier. The score reports are expected to be much quicker, not the 15 days usually they used to take earlier. Calculators are now allowed through the entire math section, that is in both the modules of maths that you're going to get. Students get more relevant information. Earlier, there used to be a lot of extraneous information and students had to, kind of sift out the important parts. But now students get to the point information, so they have to be even more careful when they are reading, right? And this is a much more secure and flexible exam in terms of the way it has been designed. Some of the bigger changes that have happened through the verbal and the math sections is something that I would want to point out to all of you. You have much shorter reading passages now. Earlier, if you have seen a old SAT paper, you had these extremely long passages with 11 to 13 questions per passage. That is no longer there. You have short passages of around 4 to 5 sentences, maximum 8 sentences, and you get only 1 question per passage, right? So if you have, say, 25 questions in a module, you have 25 passages. There will be 1 question per passage, right? You have fewer word problems. Word problems will still be there. 30% of the questions in the math section will overall be word problems, but these word problems will be much more concise. They will not have so much extraneous information as it used to be earlier. And you have a built-in graphing calculator, which can be accessed throughout both the math sections, right? Earlier, if you remember, there was a math no calculator and a math calculator section. Now you can use the calculator throughout the sections. It has its distinct advantages, and you can bring your own calculators as well. right? So I hope so far things are clear. If you have any questions, please make a note of them. I'm going to answer them at the end. Little more details about the math section. So there are 2 modules to the math section, as you can see here. Each module will contain 22 questions, 20 operational questions and 2 pre-test questions. So total 22 questions per module. Second module will also contain 22 questions. You have 35 minutes per module, which means overall you have 44 questions to be answered in 70 minutes. That gives you approximately 1.59 minutes per question, which is actually greater than what it used to be earlier. Now, you may ask, what are these operational questions and pre-test questions? Let me quickly explain that to you. Now, these 2 pre-test questions are basically unscored questions which College Board will throw at all test takers across the world for every SAT, for them to be able to classify those questions as easy, medium, or hard. Now, these questions will remain unscored, which means you will actually be scored on only 20 questions per module. Having said that, as a test taker, you would not know which are those 2 pre-test questions out of the 22 questions. All right. And therefore, you will have to answer all questions with the same diligence and sincerity. It is for College Board to know which 2 questions are pre-test questions. So for you, you have to answer all 22 questions with the same diligence, but you will be scored eventually on 20 questions in each section. Right? Okay, Srihans, yes, I'll come to that. So similarly, for the verbal section, you have 2 sections again. Verbal reading and writing section, you have 2 modules, 27 questions per module, 25 operational and 2 pre-test questions. The same concept applies in reading and writing as well. And the second module will also contain 27 questions. So overall, you have 32 minutes per module. That is, you will have to answer 54 questions in 64 minutes. In other words, 1.19 minutes per question. Again, if you compare, this is slightly more time than what you used to get earlier, right? Having said that, the biggest change that has happened is coming up. So hold on. Yeah. So yeah, let's understand what is the big change on the digital SAT. That's a multi-stage adaptive system. So the SAT exam is now computer adaptive. What does that mean? So you saw earlier that there are 2 verbal sections and 2 math sections, right? So how a student answers the questions in module 1 of verbal, the complexity level of the second module will be determined by that. In other words, module 1 will have a mixture of easy, medium, and hard questions. If a student does well in module 1, the second module will be harder on average. Whereas if a student does not do well in module 1, the second module will be easier on average. That is why I said module 2, the questions, the complexity level of module 2 will be determined by the performance of a student in module 1, and this will happen dynamically. And that will have an influence on the student score. That's the whole idea of an adaptive exam. So I will show you a few scenarios which will make you understand this better. So yeah, it's not just a simple tally of how many questions you have got right? It's a tally of how many questions and at what complexity level you have got them right. So you will initially see a mixture of easy, medium, and hard questions. And then based on your performance in the first module, the second module will see either harder questions or easier questions on average, right? That, like I told you earlier, the 2 pre-test questions per stage will be unscored. So they will not contribute to the module or overall score, right? Now, the students will encounter different versions. So suppose 2 students are taking the test side by side, they may actually face completely different questions, right? Because it is completely based on how a student has answered module 1. Now, remember guys, very important. Let's say, for example, you have done really well in module 1 and the second module is harder. Remember, you don't get extra time to answer harder questions. the amount of time still remains the same, which means that you have to focus more on your fundamentals, your skills, your time management, your accuracy levels, and of course, your strategies and techniques that you will learn, right? So it's a game of chess. It's like a game of chess. You have to strategize, you have to know what is to be done, right? And you have to be on top of your concentration throughout. So let me show you a few cases. So let's say, for example, look at case 1. Suppose we have a student here who in module 1, there were say 6 easy, 10 medium, and 6 hard questions. Okay. And got a score of 7, right? 7 and a maximum raw score of 23. So obviously it wasn't great performance. So we'll get an easier second module. In this case, because it's an easier module, the student suppose does quite well this time, gets 20 questions right, okay, out of 22, and gets a score of 16. So the overall score comes to somewhere around 510. Okay. Now, conversely, let's see what is happening with another student who, in the first module, which was again same, 6 easy, 10 medium, 6 hard, got around 8 to 15 questions right, and total got a score of 15 with a max raw score of 35. Now, this person would have got a second module because this person has reasonably done well in the first module, will get a medium complexity second module. Now, suppose this person has again got 20 right here. What is the score? 680. Have you noticed that? It's higher. Although, if you have noticed, both people they have got the same number of questions right in the second module, right? So it's the importance of the first module that we want to tell you. Okay. And look at case 3. This student with the same module 1 has got 16 to 20 questions right with a score of 24. So obviously his or her second module will be much harder. Now suppose the student has got 20 right in this case. Look at the total score, 800 out of 800. What is the moral of the story? If you have understood, the first module is extremely important. So do your first module well, keep your concentration levels high. It's important you do your first module well so that you can elevate the complexity level of your exam. That way you can assure yourself that you are on the right track to get a higher score, right? So guys, from the word go, you have to be absolutely in the zone. Okay, very, very important. So the reading and writing, earlier there used to be a whole separate reading section, and then used to be a whole separate writing and language section, but now it has all been put together. You get both reading and writing questions together in each module of verbal. So they have been primarily divided into 4 major areas. As you can see on the screen, you have craft and structure. Around 28% of the questions come from craft and structure, 13 to 15 questions, which are mainly related to words in context, cross-text connections, text structure, and purpose. Words in context are mainly related to vocabulary in context, in what context a word has been used in a passage. Cross-text connection, where you have short passages and one question will be asked across both the passages. And text structure and purpose, the role played by any one particular phrase or underlined portion in a passage. The second important portion is information and ideas. 26% of questions come from this category, 12 to 14 questions here, mainly related to central ideas and textual and quantitative inferences, which kind of ask you questions based on the overall short passage. Under writing, you have the standard English conventions. Around 26% of the questions come from here, 11 to 15%. Again, they are mainly related to grammar concepts, core conventions of standard English, sentence structure and punctuation. And then you have the remaining 20% coming from the category of expression of ideas, 8 to 12 questions, where it tests you on your editorial skills, right? Revise text to improve effectiveness of written expression. So that's how the verbal section has been structured now. These are the 4 major categories of questions. So the important points to note about the verbal section obviously are that the passages are shorter. You have limited information to read, so you must read everything carefully. You have new question types now, very interesting question types. You have to support some hypothesis. okay, kind of logical reasoning, critical reasoning, and you have some extracts from poems also, okay, as new questions that have come up on the digital SAT. And remember, tables, charts, graphs, illustrations, they are all over even the verbal section, okay? So don't think that charts and graphs will come only as part of maths. Data interpretation as a topic will be there even in verbal as well. I'm going to show you one question of that category today. So that's about verbal. For math, overall topics have remained same with a few additions. Obviously, more emphasis is now being placed on algebra and advanced math. When I say algebra, 35% of the questions will come from algebra, 13 to 15 questions, where you have linear equations and functions in 1 and 2 variables. Advanced math mainly deals with non-linear equations and functions. You have more arithmetic topics here. Ratios, proportions, relationships, percentages, probability, all these things are there. 35% on advanced math as well. The remaining 30% is broken up into problem solving and data analysis. 15% of the questions come from here, which has got a few statistical concepts like scatter plots, various other statistical diagrams. And then you have the remaining 15% on geometry and trigonometry. Some concepts of trigonometry have been included. You have mainly concepts of area, volume, lines, angles, right triangles related to Pythagoras theorem, and basic concepts of sine, cos, and tan, and circles, which are tested in math. So you have two major types of questions now. You obviously have 75% of the questions will be MCQs, 4 answer choices with 1 correct response. Right, around 75% of the questions across both the modules will be MCQs, and the remaining 25% will be SPRs, or student produced responses, right, in which you will have a text box where you will have to type in the answers. Okay, there are various rules and regulations to be followed while typing in the answers. You will learn them while you are doing the classes, right? Now, a lot of questions are related to word problems, and they deal with real world scenarios, science, social. You have to apply your mathematical skills, okay, and understand the context in which they've been used. Graph questions are there throughout, like I told you, and various kinds of graphs: dot plots, scatter plots, bar graphs, line graphs, histograms, everything. Basically, your fundamental math concepts will play a very, very important role here, right? And the questions will test you on your ability to read and interpret information in the correct manner. Now, these are some of the tools that you will find on the interface. And that probably would answer one of the questions that I saw a little while earlier. You have the mark for review button. Let's say, for example, you're going through the questions and you suddenly feel, okay, this question will probably take me more time to answer. You can mark and move on. Answer the questions that you know better, and you can come back to these questions later, okay, within the same module, of course. Once you submit a module and proceed to the next module, you cannot come back to any question or to the previous module, of course. But within that same module, you can mark a question for review and come back to it later in case you want to spend some more time on it later. You do have a testing timer, a clock that counts down the time that is left. Okay, it will give you an alert when 5 minutes are there in the module. And yes, there will be a graphing calculator inbuilt in the Bluebook app, which you can use, okay, and it's available throughout the math section. A reference sheet like they used to be earlier, even for the paper pencil SAT, will also be there, okay, before the math section. You can use it for common formulas like area of a triangle and area of a square, or volume of a pyramid, and all that. There is a new tool that is there called annotation, as you can see here. Let's say, for example, this will help you especially for verbal questions, where if you want to highlight a certain part to come back to it later and see in what context that has been used, you can put a note there and come back to it later to understand it better. So that's another tool that is available on the interface of the digital SAT. Now, obviously, when should you start your prep and how long do you need to prep? Now, remember, guys, now often I get a question like this, that what is considered a good score on the SAT? Now, remember, no college defines really what is a good score, but then it has been statistically proven that 1400 plus is always considered a really good score, and you open up a lot of opportunities for yourself. Therefore, it's important you to start early, get used to this test, especially get used to the adaptiveness of this test. take enough practice tests, condition your mind to be able to sit through this exam and know the adaptive nature of the exam. Okay. Familiarize yourself with the interface, get yourself used to the topics and the kind of questions that come. Okay. And remember, SAT is an exam which really does not, they don't really want to test you on how good you're in English or how good you're in maths. It's not an exam like that. It mainly tests you on seeing whether you have the right decision-making skills on that particular day, whether you've been able to acquire two very key skills which are required in life, accuracy of judgment and your time management, right? So ensure that through your practice, you develop this robust mechanism of, solving questions, know what are your areas of strength, know what are your areas of weakness, and accordingly, solve questions and get yourself prepared in time for the test. But remember, taking full length tests, taking enough mock tests, topic wise tests are going to be very, very important for you to know that you're ready for the exam. Okay. So I thought I'll take this opportunity to quickly show you one or two question types. So this is a sample verbal question. It's from the category of information and ideas, which asks you about the main idea of the text. So I'm just going to quickly read this. To dye wool, Navajo weaver Lily Taylor uses plants and vegetables from Arizona, where she lives. For example, she achieved the deep reds and browns featured in her 2003 rug in the path of the four seasons by using Arizona dock roots, drying and grinding them before mixing the powder with water to create a dye bath. To intensify the appearance of certain colors, Taylor also sometimes mixes in clay obtained from nearby soil. With choice, Beth states the main idea of the text. Now, when it asks for the main idea, please remember, people, that basically the question is asking you what is the overarching thought that the question is trying to, or the passage is trying to convey. So whatever answer choice you are selecting should not talk about only something that has been mentioned once in the passage. It has to bring out the thought of the overall passage. So what is this passage really talking about? It's talking about how Lily Taylor uses various things around where she lives, isn't it, to dye wool. And it gives you that. Have you seen how short the passage is? Just 3 sentences, but that tells you a lot about the whole passage, what it's trying to say. So when you think about the main idea of the text, you can eliminate anything that does not match or is not there or has been mentioned only once, but it's not what the whole passage is trying to say. Let's look at the answer choices. A says reds and browns are not commonly featured in most of Taylor's rugs. Now, the passage clearly says, for example, she achieved the deep reds and browns featured in her 2003 rug in the path of the four seasons by Arizona dock roots. Yes, the passage mentions that she used it in a 2003 rug, but it never says that she did not use it again later. So remember, whatever answer choice we choose has to be supported by evidence that is given in the text. So we cannot choose this answer choice. Option B says, in the path of the four seasons is widely acclaimed for its many colors and innovative weaving techniques. Well, I agree that the passage says, the passage highlights in the path of the four seasons as a 2003 rug. But is the whole passage really speaking about only this particular rug? I don't think so. It doesn't really talk about only this rug throughout the passage. So again, something that is only mentioned once cannot be considered as the main idea of the text. Let's look at option C, which says Taylor draws on local resources in the approach she uses to dye wool. Now, this is, I think, quite interesting an answer choice because it talks about local resources. And if I go back to the passage, the first sentence talks about how Lily Taylor uses plants and vegetables from Arizona where she lives. Local resources, fair enough. Then it gives the example how she achieved the deep reds and browns in her 2003 rug by using Arizona dock roots, again, local resources where she lives, drying and grinding them before mixing the powder with water to create a dye bath. And then the passage says, to intensify its appearance of certain colors, Taylor also sometimes mixes in clay obtained from nearby soil. Again, something that is available probably locally, right? So I think this is a good answer choice, but let's hold on to it. We will not select an answer choice unless we have eliminated all the others. The last one says Taylor finds it difficult to locate Arizona dock route in the desert. Well, the passage never says she found it difficult. In fact, the passage gives an example of how she used Arizona dock routes in her 2003 run. So we can eliminate this answer choice. The correct answer for this is C. So like I said earlier, we cannot choose an answer choice for which evidence is not there in the text. And when we talk about the main idea or the central idea of a passage, remember, it has to cover the majority of the passage, if not the whole passage. I hope this question is clear. Let me show you another question, and this time with a graph, so that you get an idea of how graph questions will appear on the verbal section. As you can see here, it says which choice most effectively uses data from the table to complete the example. This is the question that is given here. And the answer choices are given on the right-hand side. So we will have to first understand what data has been given to us, guys. So it says the participants' evaluation of the likelihood that robots can work effectively in different occupations. So this table gives you in various occupations where robots can be used, and it gives you, kind of three opinions of people, whether they are somewhat or very unlikely, whether they are neutral, and whether they are somewhat or very likely, So it says Georgia Tech robotists Deira Bryant and Ayana Howard, along with ethnicist Jason Borenstein, were interested in people's perception of robots' competence. They recruited participants and asked them how likely they think it is that a robot could do the work required in various occupations. Participants' evaluations varied widely depending on which occupation was being considered. Now, this is very significant, varied widely depending on which occupation was being considered. And then I have to give an example which proves this, that the participants' evaluations varied widely. Now, if you go through all the 4 answer choices, guys, you will find that all of them correspond to the numbers correctly that are given in the table. So on the basis of accuracy of the numbers, I cannot really eliminate, but the key word there was varied widely. If you look at the answer choices, which one is showing us a wide variation? That is only shown by A, which says 82% of the participants believe that it is somewhat or very likely that a robot could work effectively as a tour guide, but only 16%. See the wide variation, 82 versus 16? Only 16% believe that it is somewhat or very likely that a robot could work as a surgeon. None of the others do. So you can see B, 47% versus 37%. That is not as wide a variety as is shown in part A. So I can eliminate B. C and D don't really show any kind of variation. In fact, it talks about similarities. Therefore, A is the right answer. So this question again falls under the category of information and ideas, and it talks about command of evidence, quantitative, where you have to interpret the numbers, read the question carefully, and understand what is it asking. Varied widely, and A shows you how the responses vary widely. Again, I hope this is clear. I'm just going to very quickly show you one math question before I wind up. You see, word problems are there all over the SAT, right? 30% of the questions, like I had said earlier, will be word problems. But do not get intimidated whenever you see a word problem and a lot of words in there, guys, because sometimes you may not have to do any calculation at all. I'm going to show you how that is achievable through this question. Let's read this. It says, Natalia is joining an online music service that charges a monthly membership fee of $5.95. A tax of 9% is applied to the monthly membership fee, and an additional one-time initiation fee of $15 is charged at the beginning of the membership. Which of the following represents Natalia's total charge in dollars for a membership lasting M months? And you have the answer choices given there. Now, whenever you read a word problem, that is important that you interpret the information that is given to you in small parts, right? So the monthly fee that they have to pay is given as $5.95, as you can see here. And a tax of 9%, again, has to be paid monthly on the membership fee. However, there is a one-time initiation fee as well when the membership is taken, right? And that is of $15. Now, I have a question for all of you who are attending. Which would be a good starting point for all of us among these three to check whether I can eliminate any answer choices? Would you all agree that the one-time initiation fee is something that has to be paid only once? Therefore, in any of the equations that are given in the answer choices, it should not be multiplied or should not come within the brackets? Isn't it? It has to be added separately because it's a one-time fee, added only once. Therefore, based on this, which answer choices can we eliminate straight away, people? Can any of you tell me? Would you like to try? Yes, Parthiv? A and C. Absolutely, isn't it? Makes your job that much simple. A and C are out. And you're left with only B and D. Now it becomes very easy. Tax of 9%. Should it be 1.09 or 0.09? Simple mathematics, simple concept of percentages. It has to be 1.09. Absolutely correct. Ahil, absolutely correct. Yes, it is 1.09, tax of 9%. So tell me, did I really solve anything? It was just about interpreting the information that is given. And that is sometimes all that you have to do. So do not start solving as soon as you see a question, guys. Sometimes you can easily eliminate answer choices and arrive at the correct answer. Just keep your eyes and ears open. All right. So yeah, I think digital SAT is one important cog in the wheel of your whole application process when you're seeking your admissions in top universities abroad. Having said that, that's just one aspect of the entire application process. There are various other things involved, which I think Seema would be the best person to tell you about. Over to you, Seema.
Thank you so much, Sean. Good evening, everyone. And let's share my screen very quickly. Okay. It's visible. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Okay, so let's talk about Ivy League. It's a dream school for everyone, and why US and Ivy League. So we know that the universities in USA are very flexible. When you are not sure about the subject, what subject that you are going to take for your undergraduation. So whenever you are studying in class 11th and 12th, might be you're not convinced that what subject you want to go for undergraduation. So you can go for undecided program, or you can go for a general majors, and you can change your major in second year, right? And let's talk about what are the Ivy Leagues. So Ivy Leagues are 8 schools, private universities located in Northeastern United States, highly competitive with low acceptance rate. So how we can get the admission in Ivy League, that's the most important thing. So everyone can see
hi,
this.
Seema, just sorry to interrupt you. I just was hoping that you could put it in the show mode.
Okay, slide mode.
Yeah, slideshow, and
it's fine.
Perfect. Yeah, it's perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So, okay. So when we are talking about the important key factor in your application is required. So you can see this diagram, right? So universities in US, they are evaluating your application on a 360 degree. So 360 degree means every component is playing a huge role in your application. So like you can see, the 40% requirement for your academics. So academic, we are talking about class 9, class 10, class 11th, and class 12th. And what rank that you are holding in class 9, 10th, and 11th, and 12th is going to play a huge role in your application. Second component, we are talking about standardized tests. Standardized tests are SAT. So SAT is going to play a huge role in your application. And then we are talking about clubs, sports, and community leadership, internship, research paper. So club, sports, and community is like a 5% weightage in your application. Leadership, 5% weightage. Internship, 5% weightage. Research paper, 10% weightage. And essay and LORs are going to play a 15% role in your application. So we will talk about a little bit more in terms of sports and community services and clubs. So sometimes the students are thinking that profile is going to play a huge role in their application. That's true. But what activity is going to play a huge role? Sometimes we are not able to understand that part because we are trying to do multiple things, but multiple things are not required. What you need to do, whatever you are doing, just do it in depth. In depth in the sense, for example, if you are playing cricket. So if you are playing cricket, so try to play, if you have an opportunity to play that cricket inter-school level, school level, district level, state level, and international level. So whatever the quality or whatever the sport that you're playing or activity you are doing, how you are increasing the bar or depth of that activity. That's very, very important. Leadership, if you're talking about, and sometimes let's come to the community also. Sometimes the students are thinking that, okay, teach students that complete the community service. My suggestion is try something else. So something else that could be that you are going to some orphanage, meeting orphan kids, going to some cancer hospital, meeting cancer patients. You don't need to do a lot of things. You can just sit there, talk to them. That's going to play a huge role. So you can change the community services these days, and you need to decide what community service is going to play a huge role in your application. So choose your options wisely. Again, the second option that we're talking about, leadership, is going to play a huge role. So leadership, sometimes the students are not sure that how can I showcase my leadership? So leadership is like, if you are doing something really good, you can organize hackathon, you can organize some fair in your school, you can organize anything where it can showcase that you are leading that activity, right? Internships are going to play a 5% role in your application. So internship, like if you are interested to go for computer science program, you can go to Internshala, take some internship, or now these days after COVID, a lot of universities are, or companies are also inviting a student, they can come for the internship. The last thing in your profile section, that's the research paper. Some students are really, really good in terms of their understanding about the subject. If they have that ability or they have that opportunity to write a research paper, that's going to play a huge role, because uniqueness is very, very important key factor in your application. That how they can define you are a different applicant from the other applicants. So if you have that opportunity, you can publish your research paper and work on your research areas. And the last component in this diagram, that's your essays and LORs, because whatever you have done academically, SCT, community service, clubs, sports, leadership, internship, research paper, you have done all of these things. But how you are going to showcase to your admission committee, then the essays are going to play a huge role. Whatever you have done, how you're going to tell through your essay that who you are, what you have done, why the university should take you, and you are the best candidate for the specific university. So I hope this chart is clear. If you have any question, we can discuss after this Q&A session. Let's talk about the timeline. So the students, sometimes, because Ivy League, when we are talking about, we have to plan the journey, because it's not something like that if you have decided today and you can apply tomorrow. No, give enough time to yourself. The students, they have joined us, if they are in class 9, I will request them to start their process now. Plan your journey, design your journey, that which year that you are going to do one thing, other thing, like in terms of SAT, in terms of community service, in terms of other activities that you want to do it. Please plan your journey in advance. And my suggestion to the students, that whomsoever is planning to go for fall 2024, please take your SAT either in the month of March, the next month, or in month of May. Why? Because applications are going to open in the month of August. Max to max in the first week of August or second week of August, your applications will be open. So that you can plan, decide, shortlist the university, and you can start applying, because you know that the early deadline is 1st November. Some might be interested to apply for early decision. Some might be interested to apply for regular decision. So early decision and early application is going to play a huge role. You know that the first come, first serve. If you're planning to go and get some kind of amount of scholarship, please be ready before August. So please complete your standardized testing and whatever the community service or whatever that we are doing in terms of extracurricular activities. Please complete your task before August, because July and October, we are going to finalize the school. We are going to write the essays, because writing essay is like a time-consuming thing. And students whomsoever is in school, they are busy in their curriculum, school curriculum also, because in class 12, too much pressure, board pressure is there, then midterm exams, and there are so many things. So it's good. Plan your journey in advance so that you will not miss any opportunity. Let's talk about the requirement for Ivy League. So Princeton University, so their SAT requirement is 1460 to 1570. Their acceptance rate is 4%. And their popular programs are social science, engineering, and computer. Let's talk about the Harvard University. Their SAT range is 1480 to 1580, and the acceptance rate is 4%. And the popular programs are mathematics and computer and informative science and journal and history journal. Yale University, their SAT requirement is 1480 and 1580, in between the 1480 and 1580. The acceptance rate is 5%, and the popular programs are social science and history and mathematics and engineering. University of Pennsylvania, the acceptance rate is 6%. The SAT requirement is 1480 to 1570. The most popular programs are business management and marketing and related support, right? And then if you're talking about the Dartmouth, the acceptance rate is 6%, and the SAT range is 1440 to 1560. Brown, the acceptance rate is 6%, and the SAT range is 1460 to 1570. And the popular programs are computer science and biology. And then we are talking about the Cornell. The SAT requirement is 1450 in between to 1560, and the acceptance rate is 9%. And Columbia University, the SAT requirement is in between the 1460 to 1570. Acceptance rate is 6%, and the popular program major are computer science and engineering and health. So we have already discussed this part in that diagram, that what is important and key factor when we are applying to Ivy League. So high school GPA, if you can manage your rank, sometimes because the Indian students are not aware about the rank is going to play a huge role. So we are missing on that part. So if you have any rank, please maintain that. It's going to play a huge role. And SAT, obviously, it's going to play a huge role. GPA absolutely is required. You need to work hard on your GPA part, but at the same time, don't miss out on your profiling part, because sometimes in India, it's very difficult for us to manage academics and profile, but we need to manage how we can get both, right? And impactful essay is going to play a huge role, extracurricular activities, quality of recommendation letters. So please talk to your teachers. They can give you a nice or lovely recommendation letter. That's going to play a huge role. And the important part is scholarship. So scholarships, there are different kind of scholarships. So need-based financial aid, that's the scholarship. This is for the student. The students are doing academically is really good, but they have some challenges with the financial, on the financial side, right? So there are 4 or 5 schools are providing a need-based financial aid: Cornell, Brown, Columbia, and University of Pennsylvania. So how you can apply for need-based financial aid? So whenever we are booking or SAT exam, so we are creating a login ID and password on College Board, right? So you can apply through College Board website for CSS profile. So what is CSS profile? Where you need to disclose about your financial strengths, like how many people in your family, what is your earning, how much you have to support for your education. So there are a lot of questions regarding your financial support system. And when you're applying through CSS profile, there is a fees. The College Board is going to charge some fee from you. That will be, I think, somewhere around $25 to initiate your CSS profile. And if I'm not wrong, somewhere around $16 for per school, because when you are filling your CSS profile, initiating, then you are paying some amount, and you're sending your profile to individual schools, then we are going to pay some individual amount of fee to each school, okay? If you have any questions, just we can discuss in the later part. And then we have a merit-based financial aid. So merit-based financial aid is all about your profile. So whatever that we have discussed, so profile, we are talking about SAT, academic performance, extracurricular activities, and social work, that whatever you have done, for that you don't need to apply separately. For that, only one thing I just want to suggest each and everyone, please, if you are looking for a merit-based financial aid, apply with early. Don't go with regular, because in regular application, you are not going to get any kind of scholarship. So please prepare your journey in advance and apply as soon as possible you can. And then we are talking about the need blind financial aid. So need blind financial aid, like if you have a very, very good profile, universities are not going to check that you have a lot of money to support your education. If you have a wonderful profile, they can offer you need blind financial aid, okay? So few schools from Ivy is providing a need blind financial aid. So schools are like Yale, Princeton, and Harvard. And the most popular scholarship in India is supported by Tata Group, because Mr. Ratan Tata, he's an alumni of Cornell. So whomsoever is applying to Cornell, and if they are accepted, they can apply for Tata scholarship through CSS profile. So eligibility area is, you need to be an Indian citizen, you should have a Cornell offer, undergraduate student offer, and you should be eligible for need-based financial aid. So we know that what is need-based financial aid. Need-based financial aid that we have already discussed. The student has a wonderful profile, but they have some constraint related to financial part, right? And then what we do as an institution, as an organization. So you know that whatever we have discussed, Ivy Leagues are taking a lot of effort and journey you need to plan in advance, because you need to work on profile, you need to work on SAT, you need to work on your essays and LORs. So journey should be planned in advance. How we are handling or helping, or what do we do? So we are supporting student, helping with them in terms of profile, how they can make their wonderful profile. We are helping student that they can get a lovely and wonderful SAT scores. We are helping students once they are ready to apply, how they should finalize the school and shortlisting, and then we are helping them that how they can get a good amount of scholarship. And then we are helping students that they should get a good support in terms of essay writing and LORs. So that's the most important thing. We have a wonderful advising team. The team is working with individual student as per their profile, as per their requirement. If the student is targeting Ivy League, then definitely we need to be on our toes and to guide them that how they can start and they can get whatever they're looking for in terms of their dream, right? And we have a wonderful editing team. Why the essay is going to play a huge role, we have already talked about, but this is very important. It's going to help admission committee or officers to understand who you are, what you value, how you have grown, and how you respond in different type of situations, because that's going to play a huge role. Whatever you have done, if you are not able to display that who you are, then it will be very difficult for them to understand you as an individual. So we have a wonderful editing team, and these are the wonderful admins in last couple of years. And these are the stars that they got a wonderful offers from the wonderful universities, and we are done. So any question?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Seema. That was really informative. And thank you, Sean. So we have a couple of questions. So I think we should move on to a Q&A session right now, as you rightly asked, Seema, about whether the students have any questions.
Yes.
I think the first one I'll pose to you is Sean. Aarti is asking the question, is writing part SAT optional in digital? I'm not sure whether she is asking about the reading and writing, because it's a verbal part in itself. Probably she's confused with the essay, which we don't have now. So
yeah. So Aarti, I think there is no more, the essay is no longer a part of SAT. It used to be there quite some time ago, actually. There is nothing optional anymore. You have to answer all the sections that are there. That will be thrown at you on the digital SAT.
Graduation, so you can do.
Right.
Right. So I think, Aarti, I hope that answers your question, because the entire test has gotten revamped, and I think Sean has taken you through the entire new format. Okay, Sahiti is asking this question. Can we score a good score in SAT when you are in the 10th grade?
Yes, Sahiti, you can. We have seen many instances of students having scored a good score on the SAT even in 10th, sometimes even in 9th as well. Remember, please, that the SAT math section, whatever topics are asked, they are technically 9th and standard topics only. Okay. There's no advanced calculus. There's no advanced trigonometry that is there. So there's nothing to worry about. It's up to 10th standard only. So nothing to worry about it. English, but you can't really say which standard English is in, because English is kind of universal in nature, isn't it? So yes, you can definitely get a good score even in the 10th standard. Yeah.
Right. So I had another question earlier from Ramesh S. I think Seema, you would be able to answer this question. What he asked was whether there's an acceptance percentage per, according to the university, so that we had a slide on it. But I think this question was um, in terms of university acceptance. Is there a certain acceptance like you've shown for Princeton or UPenn and other universities? Do we get that kind of information in a particular table format for like all of the universities? Does it really work like that, or where can they find it?
Yes, universities has their own acceptance rate. Like we have talked about the Cornell for Indian students. I think the favorite university is Cornell. They have an acceptance rate is 9%. So if someone is interested to know about the acceptance rate or table or more detail, they can talk to us.
Right. And I think this would be the right time to say that, there's a free one-on-one expert, both admission session as well, that you can book on the Manya Group website. Like book a free demo would be, when you go to manyagroup.com, there's a book free demo button link or on the top right corner. You can click that and schedule your demo with the expert, either with a digital SAT expert or an admissions expert, where you will get information that's very specific to you. That should be able to actually help you. So we have another question from, Parthiv says, could you please show the names of the universities again, 44th slide. Okay, I think he's talking about the slide where our students got into. Seema, you could just probably put that up.
Okay, sure.
Sahana is asking the question, is essay for application to college necessary in India? Essays for India.
Indian school you're talking about?
Yeah, for Indian schools. If I may add a bit here, Sahana, so SAT for India, I think based on what Sean showed in the first slide as well, there are about 38 universities in India, which is the Indian Global Alliances colleges, which actually offer two things. One is 80 to 50% tuition, the SAT fee waiver for students who come from a certain income group. And also these universities, if you get an admit into those universities, they would also there's a possibility that they could actually give you 100% tuition fee waiver as well, provided you have scored 1300 plus in your SAT. And also you kind of satisfy all of the other criteria. With respect to essays, it would vary. The requirement could vary from university to university. I hope that answers your question. Okay. The next question is it a good profile if I have a national certificate in handball? Seema, this definitely goes out.
Absolutely. It's going to play a huge role. Like when I was talking about that, don't do so many things and think about that, okay, I am going to do profile building, each and everything I'm doing. No, please do everything in depth. So if you are playing on national, you are going to get a lot of support from the admission committee.
Yeah, and if I'm not wrong, Seema, US universities particularly value participation and performance in sports as well, isn't it?
Absolutely. Cornell, if you're talking about Columbia, we are talking about, they have a sports club and they are going to welcome you. Yes, please continue with that, whatever the activities that you are doing. Amazing.
Okay, so Sahiti has another question. How much should I get in 10th and 12th boards to get into Ivy League?
Lovely question, but I will say that at least score beyond 95%, in between somewhere around 95 to 98%. That's going to help us a lot.
Right. And
if I may add a word here to Sahiti's question. Sahiti, please do remember that when colleges will check your academic record, they're going to check from 9th onwards. So 9th, 10th, 11th and 12th And by the time you apply, your 12th boards would not have been done. So your 12th midterm scores are also going to be important, right? So you have to show consistency throughout. Okay, so remember
Absolutely.
that. Remember that. Because
Yeah,
I have seen so many students 11th standard, they just tend to relax, and the scores drop. So
Don't do
that's
that.
very important.
Please don't do that. Like, that's why I just discussed that 40% your academics are going to play a huge role. So whatever you are doing from class 9, 10th, 11th, and 12th is going to play a huge role.
right. Like the last 4 years of their studies actually impact them, right?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
I was also hoping to add one more thing, another thing, if especially if you come from the state boards, CBSE and IGCSE boards, what would really benefit you is taking the advanced placement exams as well, subject test, if I'm not wrong, Sean, and
Yes,
Seema,
yes. Career
because there's
specific
a
ones.
correct, the most relevant ones to the course that you want to take, because and AP exams, you stand to earn credits, college level credits, in the university, where it could actually free up a semester for you to do something else as well, or another major alongside that, which again you have to plan from ninth onwards, because you have to kind of like determine what kind of subjects you have to get into. So Pranav
Yeah.
has his question. Oh, wait. Another question. Yeah, Pranav has this question. I have got 82 in 11th and in 10th too. What should be my 12th score to get into an Ivy?
I will say, please, in predicted score, at least you should be somewhere around in between 95, in between 90 to 95. That's very important.
Right. And I think in a large way, digital SED score also balances out CGPA in a big way if
It
they are
does.
able to
Yeah,
show their capacity as well, right?
it does. Definitely.
So another question, what kind of community service is expected by the universities?
See, universities are not accepting anything from you. There is no defined line, or there is no like duties, or they have written something that you need to do this. No. The community service, like, because in India, I've seen from last so many years, students are doing the same activity, teaching underprivileged student, right?
Right.
So my suggestion is to the students whomsoever is planning to go for 2024, do such kind, it's community service, like I discussed about, that you can go to some cancer hospital, talk to the patients, and just try to showcase that you care for everyone and you want to give back to your society. So
Correct.
something like that, that you are taking care of orphanage. So there is no defined community service, I will say. It's up to you that what best that you can find for yourself, and talk to your counselor. The whatever the activity that you are doing, that activity is going to play a huge role or not.
I think, Seema, what I understand from what you said is also that the students, it has to mean something for them as well, rather than putting something on paper, right? I think
Absolutely.
the admissions committee actually see through that as well. Is it just something on the paper, or something that the students actually feel very strongly about as well?
Absolutely, because recently that one of my student, he got an offer from a different university, not Ivy, but we talked about that he was taking care of his grandmom. She was sick from last 4 or 5 years, and so it was a wonderful essay, because you can connect and you can say what you have done. That should display in your essay or reflect, I will say.
Correct. Fair enough.
Yeah.
So I think that's all the questions I've had. Guys, if you have any questions, please make sure that you're putting them into the chat box. Just checking in if I've missed any questions. Okay, I think we are actually done. So there was an earlier question about from Ahil. I think I had managed to type in to the chat. He was asking about ACT and what ACT was and what GPA was. Sean, do you want to kind of like talk about what ACT is?
Yeah, so ACT is another entry-level examination into undergrad programs in the US. Uh, I mean, ACT is also accepted by all colleges in the US. It's just that ACT has, if I talk about in terms of curriculum, has got a lot more in it than the SAT has. You have an added
Right.
science component to it. Okay.
Correct.
The scoring pattern is also pretty different. And it's like the old SAT, the long passages and everything will be there. Unlike
Correct.
the
Correct.
dynamic version of the new SAT that I showed you today, right?
Correct. And I think that with the new change in the digital SAT, it has definitely become much shorter than what ACT exam was as well.
Yeah, definitely.
So I have Sahiti asking another question, that is, how long is the SAT preparation? I think she means to ask how long should she prepare for the SAT?
So Sahiti, I think that depends on when you want to take the SAT. Let's say, for example, if you are taking the SAT in May, March is no longer possible if you haven't started preparing already.
Yeah.
If you have to take the exam in May, then you must start today after this webinar because you need some amount of time to get ready, right? And
Correct.
let's say, for example, even if you want to take the test, suppose in June or in August, the earlier you begin, the better equipped you are. You get used to the question types, you get used to the whole exam, the adaptive nature of the exam. So, there's never a good time to start. I mean, you can start right away and get used to it in small parts. So, yes, it's important that you give yourself enough time because right now you will have a lot of other activities to do, your school curriculum, your extracurricular activities. In between all that, you have to balance everything. So, see, that's again another thing that is a test of your time management skills in daily life, isn't it? So again, something that you have to plan really well. And so start early and give the exam when you're absolutely ready.
Right. Ramesh T, whether Indian students can take the June digital SAT. I think I'd like to answer this question in terms of Indian students should take the exam in June because in America, the digital SAT has not yet started. For the American students, the US students, their exam is still pencil and paper based. Whereas for the international students, including the Indian students, the test that is occurring from now on, which is like the March 11th, June 6th, May 6th, and June 3rd, all of these exams are digital SAT and is for the international students. So there's another question from Fahima. Do the number of attempts on the SAT decrease the value of an applicant?
Yeah. So,
Uh,
yeah, please,
yeah,
Seema,
Sean,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. Go ahead, Sean.
Okay. See, the thing is, to be very honest, there is no limit to the number of times you can take the SAT. But then when you should get your score in at least 2 attempts, 2 to 3 attempts maximum. Because otherwise, if you take too many attempts, it does not really show off good on your profile. Because honestly, it's not a very difficult exam. You need to get used to the exam and do it well. I think in 2 attempts you should get. When you come to Manya, let me assure you, our teachers will be after you to ensure that you do it correct in the first attempt itself, right? So that's very
Right. And I
important.
think
So
I've seen a lot of track record to actually prove that as well. So,
exactly,
Seema, you
and
were going,
yeah,
yeah.
yes, Seema, please carry on.
No, I was just saying that because taking SAT multiple times is not a good idea. So max to max, like Sean said, the 2 times, maximum 2 times is more than enough. Yes.
Right. I have a very interesting question from Pranav because uh, this is really interesting. Why is digital SAT better than offline one?
Well, Pranav, because you now no longer have a choice to give the offline one, you have to take the digital one because offline SAT is no
Yeah, I was
longer
just
there.
about thinking the same thing. But I think besides that, if Sean a couple of pointers as to why it would be really good for them as well is, I think,
Yeah, I think, see, with this change that has happened in the adaptive scheme of things, the exam has really become like a global exam. I'm not saying it wasn't a global exam earlier, but the structure of the exam, it's become like the GRE exam, which is given by applicants for master's programs abroad. So it's a much more dynamic exam. It tests you more on your ability to discern information from limited information that is given. So This is a better way of understanding your skills, because see, in the real business world or in a real working environment, guys, you'll have a lot of constraints, right? How you're able to make the best decisions among those constraints is what is going to define your true success. And these exams have been designed exactly in that way now, right? So I think digital SAT is therefore a great change.
Right. The other question that I have is again, I think AP related. When should I give AP exams? I'm in 12th now, and also what's the syllabus?
So Pranav, if you're already in the 12th now, you have only this May when you can take the AP, because APs in India happen only once, that is in May. So you'll have to plan right away, and if you are interested in taking the APs, of course, and take the APs in May. Sahiti, I'll come to that. The syllabus for the APs is just high school curriculum, is 11, 12 standard content basically. So let's say, for example, for mathematics, you have something called AP calculus. Okay, for physics, you have 11, 12 curriculum. Okay, things like that. So it's basically 11, 12 standard high school curriculum. Right?
Okay. And yeah, Sahiti's question is to, can we do APs in 10th grade?
I won't say you can't, Sahiti, but it will be slightly challenging because everything has its own pace. But yes, depending on which board you are currently in, that can have an impact as well. If you're already in IGCSE board or IB, then I think APs do fit into their curriculum much easier than if you are in a CBSE or ICSE, ISC board.
So one of the things that I wanted to add here was one research that you would want to do right now is the kind of universities that you're applying to. How many AP exams do you have to take in order to earn certain number of credits that you want for your specific your program or course? Okay, that would help you plan it out. Just adding on to the IB bit, normally IB curriculum, they by virtue of the IB itself, you're likely to get credits. So if you're from the IB, you may not require AP, but then it again depends upon the university requirement, which is why, as Seema earlier told, it's important from the 9th grade itself to start doing your research in order to get ahead of exactly what all things that you would require. Pranav, it's a long topic, I think, talking about the credits and how to actually get that. What I would suggest is you reach out to somebody from Manya to get more information about that, because it's an entire story in itself. Wait, and I think we'd have to kind of like wind up a bit, but I'm just taking 2 more questions before we do. Fahima asked, for community service, do we need to produce certificates to prove the authenticity of our work?
Absolutely. Normally, universities are not going to ask to send your certificate or something, but if there is something, they will find something is fishy and they want to clarify with you, then yes, university has that right to ask for the certification or proof that you have done all these services. So it's always good to take certificate, whatever the activity that you are doing. Make sure, that's very important. Maybe you're not going to use it, but keep it.
All right. So one last one. I hate to kind of like not be answering questions, but one last one. Are Olympiads good for profile?
Olympiad is good for profile. See, Olympiad is good for profile. It's like a one component in your application. So if you are holding a good rank, like India level or state level, something, then yes, it's going to be appreciated by the admission committee, no doubt. Yes, please. So right. Perform well. So, don't participate, so perform well also.
Right. So will we get a PDF of the presentation? Well, not a PDF, JJ, but you will be able to actually view this video, or it's live streamed on the YouTube. So you should be able to view the video. But more important than that, as Pranav rightly asked, how do you connect to us? The number, you can connect to our team on the number that is given on screen, or you can write to us at care@maniagroup.com. Or one of the best things that you can actually do is, as I've mentioned earlier, go to maniagroup.com website, and right on the top, you would find free demo. Click on the link and schedule your demo with either of our admissions expert or a digital SAT expert to kind of get all the clarity that you require one-on-one. So that's it from our end. Thank you everybody for joining in and staying so long. We've taken quite a chunk of time. A big thank you to Seema. The session was really informative, and I think the students really got a lot of information with respect to how they have to proceed or where they have to start. And a big thank you to Sean for walking the students through the digital SAT and giving them absolute clarity exactly how they have to prepare, what do they expect, and definitely where to start with their preparation. A big thank you to both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Vedant, thank you so much. Fahima, thank you.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Saiti.